Immensa was set up around 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and the objective of setting up Immensa was really to bridge the gap between additive manufacturing and industry in the region. Additive manufacturing has been around for over 25-30 years. It's been on a commercial serial level for at least the last 10 years. We've seen it mainstream production for the last 10 years. Everything we do, we feel is very exciting. Everything we do is sort of breaking new barriers and breaking new grounds related to digital inventories and taking parts and converting them to digital format. We've worked with clients where we've been able to optimize the parts and provide parts that are much more efficient. The specific one was a metal manufacturing company, the one that does steel bars. And they have a steel part that is 3.5 kilos. The lead time on it was around 6 to 8 weeks. We took that part, we re-engineered it, we produced it in metal. We were able to reduce the weight by around 1.5 kilos. We made it more efficient, and the lead time was 48 hours. One of the most interesting things we'll be launching probably over the next month and a half is a software related to 3D printing, and we're allowing clients to actually take an app and through that app identify what part can be 3D printed. In terms of additive manufacturing, some of the things that the projects we're currently working on in R&D, again, goes back to certain parts for clients where we're re-engineering the part, optimizing the part, and they can produce it. Molds and formworks for construction, we've done some very exciting projects on that. We work with some of the largest contractors here where we help them do formworks that's very complex. I see it actually in a couple of different angles. I think the technology adapts itself really well for the region. We're not a region of mass production, and it's a technology for lower volume. So on the manufacturing side, I see a lot of adoption in terms of whether it's tooling whether it's for injection molding, whether it's for casting. There's a huge opportunity there. On the construction side, there's also a very big opportunity there. We know that 25% of buildings have to be 3D printed by 2030. It doesn't necessarily mean concrete 3D printing. You look at the entire building, and there's so much scope to actually adopt 3D printing and make the construction process much more efficient. Whether you're looking at fittings, whether you're looking at formworks again, whether you're looking at customization of certain elements of the building, whether at tools. Prototyping before you go on site, we think that process can really adopt itself really well for that. In terms of industries in general, today I think oil and gas provides a huge opportunity, a massive opportunity, because it isn't very developed in Europe. Europe isn't an oil industry, so they haven't really researched a lot. You see a lot of that coming out of the US, but I think that provides a massive opportunity for additive manufacturing, fabrication, parts, obsolete tools, and so on. I think we have one overwhelming barrier, and that's really been what slowed down the adoption and where we stand today in terms of the UAE compared to the rest of the world, and that's awareness and education. We lack awareness on what additive manufacturing can provide. We need to be able to have more centers like Immensa pop up. We need this kind of support. We need the ecosystem to be developed. We don't have an ecosystem for additive manufacturing. Today there's 127 additive manufacturing development centers across the world. We don't have a single one in the region. And you need those so industry can actually access the technology. Industry can build the cases on this before they go and invest themselves into the machinery and into the equipment. Some of the things that I always keep in mind, today you have over 180 industrial 3D printing manufacturers globally. They're selling over 19,000 machines a year. You've got 15 processes, hundreds of materials. And for a manufacturer, an industry to come and identify what technology to invest in, where to put it, is quite challenging. So you need them to actually be educated, awareness to be there, access to the technology, develop their business case, and then they can jump in and adopt it. Lowering your inventory, and in any business you've got 3 levers you can play with: increasing revenue, reducing cost, or releasing cash. We sit on a lot of inventory, we sit on a lot of spare parts. 3D printing can really eliminate and take a big size. If you only look at 3 to 5% of all inventory globally being digitized, you're talking about $500 billion. So that's one of the biggest factors. Second thing is lead time of parts actually getting into the region. It becomes cheaper because you're eliminating logistics, freight, customs, and so on. You're producing the parts locally. So it adds on to your manufacturing as an economy and for companies. Third thing is actually optimizing the parts. You take parts and redesign them for additive manufacturing. With additive manufacturing, it allows you a complete freedom of design and creativity. So you can make parts much more efficient. Then the fourth one is generally you develop your workforce, because you end up moving and trying, instead of being an import trade-based economy, you're actually pushing your industrialization. I want to talk about the state of the industry in general. Again, we feel a big part of our objective and mission as Immensa is really to build awareness, to advocate the technology. I've become probably the biggest advocate of additive manufacturing in the last 3 years. And we want to talk about where it's been used, where it has reached, to give a bit more confidence, address a lot of questions. And to be honest, it's been very exciting. The last 6 months to a year, we've seen a big shift, even locally. We've seen a lot more acceptance to understand. So we want to talk about what's happening across the world, how we see it transitioning here, and how can people benefit. Two key sort of people is very senior decision makers, for them to understand where this has been used, but more so technical people, because the best language you speak are people on the floor, the technical guys who do maintenance, the guys who actually build machines, the guys who are involved in tooling, to understand where it is, to be able to address their concerns, and to manage expectations. The key thing with 3D printing is to manage people's expectations. It's a fantastic technology, but it's not a fit for everything. So I think anyone in manufacturing, anyone in oil and gas is very important. Anyone that deals with tooling is very important. And construction, of course, that's a big part of our economy. We're looking forward, and we're very excited about the conference, and this is, I think, a huge step for the industry and the ecosystem.